right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. This is Bob Pompeani. We're live tonight in the Fan Cave, and we're here talking sports with you at 412-575-2600. Big day of news items. Andrew Fillipponi is up at 93.7 The Fan. They were busy today, as they always are, on the PM team. And let's begin with...
You're unbelievable, by the way. You're just unbelievable.
What did I do now?
You had an incredible suit on for the Tomlin press conference. Now you've got a brand new one on. You must have the highest dry cleaning bill in the greater Pittsburgh area if you're churning through two entirely different suits on a daily basis. Incredible. You look great, but I'm just saying, that's a lot of dry cleaning, my friend.
I've told you before, people ask where you get your clothes. I say off the bed. Lisa's responsible, but we go to Heinz Healy's down in Pittsburgh, and they have some great men's clothing. So that's the secret right there. But thank you. I appreciate that, Andrew. And let's talk about this day. A lot of people expected a trade. I did. I thought Jakobi Meyers, if he was traded, would be traded to Pittsburgh. That did not happen. And when you look at what they gave up to get him, Jacksonville, fourth and a sixth, I thought that was a doable trade by anyone, including the Steelers. It did not get done. That was one of many deals. Let's start there, and then we'll move on to some of the bigger ones that we saw later in the day.
Well, one of the things I don't like doing as a fan is when you criticize a team for a move that nobody made. You know, if you say, why didn't Omar Khan go out and get Jalen Waddle? Well, no team got Jalen Waddle. So obviously, and from all the reporting on it, the asking price was sky high on him. So that, to me, is not a reasonable critique. But not getting Myers or Shaheed, given the Steelers' lack of depth and talent at wide receiver, I think is absolutely fair game. I mean, this has been a problem for 2 years. You know, I think a lot of the people that have stood up for the Steelers have said, well, okay, we traded George Pickens. We're going to find a guy between now and the deadline to fill those shoes. They didn't even come close. They didn't get anybody. I don't care. I mean, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, great. He's had, you know, a heck of a career with Aaron Rodgers. He's also 31 in the 49ers, who had about 10 wide receiver injuries, and a very smart offensive coach, by the way, in Shanahan, said, you know what, we don't need this guy anymore. So that doesn't exactly give me peace of mind, Bob. Given the amount of picks that the Steelers are projected to have, which I think right now is 12 in next spring's draft, I would have absolutely moved day 3 picks to give this team a better wide receiver to enhance their chances of winning this season with a 2-game lead in the division in a wide-open AFC.
I agree, and I think the other thing you can't count on is health all the way through. If something happens to DK Metcalf, now you're down to brass bones right there. You don't have many options left, and you're going to be counting on Roman Wilson, who was shouted out today by Mike Tomlin in a negative way. But, you know, that's the only thing. It's depth. It's just what we saw in the safety position. They had to go out and get Kyle Duggar, who played a lot. These kinds of things happen over the course. We're only halfway through the season, so that's why I thought that. I think Seattle made a good move to get Shaheed. They're going, you know, they're all in with Sam Darnold, and I'll tell you who else is all in. Jacksonville. You know, they're a team that believes they could win. They've had a lot of drops from their receivers, so they go out and get Jakobi Meyers. And what about the Jets? Now, this is a team that strikes me as very interesting. And they've loaded up. They have 5 number 1 picks as a result of what happened today. Over the next 2 years, 5 number 1s, 2 number 2s, but they had to get rid of Sauce Gardner. They had to get rid of Quentin Williams. But I guess if you're 1-7 and you can't win with them, then I guess you can do the same without them. And overall, I thought the Jets probably made a good move there, given their record and where they are.
Well, one of the reasons why they're so bad is because their defense has been so overrated, and we saw the Steelers torch them in week 1, and Aaron Rodgers threw 4 touchdowns against his former team. Sauce Gardner's not played like an elite corner since his 2nd year, and they paid him like he's still one of the best in the NFL. To get 2 first-round picks for him, I think, is a miracle and an incredible trade by them. And, you know, I have to question the Colts. I mean, Daniel Jones has been fantastic. We know that. But now you're really backed into a corner with Daniel Jones as far as keeping him goes and paying him, which is something the Giants did, and they ended up regretting committing that kind of money to him. So the Jets still have to find a quarterback, but Bob, they now have the ammunition to go get one, and they're also going to have a pretty bad record this year, which is going to already put them in position to take a quarterback when the draft's here in April.
Organically, they may be the worst team, and they're going to get the number one, and they have other picks to go as well. And the Colts, I guess you can say they're all in, but that's a tough one. Although I will say at Daniel Jones this year, at least for $14 million, they have some money to spend, and they see this as an opportunity. So they are certainly all in. We have a lot to get into. We have some news concerning the Penguins when we come back, and we want to open up the phone lines to you out there at 412-575-2600. Hit us up on X as well. It's at KD Pomp, at the Pony Express. We'll talk to you next right here on KDKA Plus and 93.7 The Fan. All right, welcome back. This is our Xfinity tweet of the night. Comes from Jennifer Bolano, originally Penguins PR. Sergei Miroshov is headed to Pittsburgh. Now, this guy has gone 5-2 with a 173 goals against, a 931 save percentage, and one shutout. He was the AHL goaltender of the month, and he will become the league-leading 7th rookie to play for the Penguins this year. And the question is, as was brought up to me on Twitter by B. Hang, and he says, is this a reaction to one terrible period? Well, last night they had a very good 40 minutes, up 3-0, and all of a sudden it all changed. I don't know if it's reaction to one period for the goalie. I think this had to be already thought of before last night's games. Not only him, but they're bringing up others as well, from Danton Heinen and Ryan Graves returns. Your thoughts about Miroshov, and should they play him right off the bat, Andrew?
Well, I've never been a big fan of, if you have a young player, making him watch. If he's here, he should play. If not, he should go back to the minor leagues and continue to get experience and get seasoning to prepare himself for the next level. So I would hope so. I mean, that doesn't mean he plays every night. You know, a lot more teams are having closer to a 50-50 split with their goalies. And so that's how I would do it. Now, the struggle with that is when you share it that way, though, it's hard for guys to get into a rhythm. And obviously, goaltending is a very fickle thing. And these guys are creatures of habit in a lot of ways. So that's why Dan Muse is here to navigate that situation. But Bob, he's been so outstanding down in the minor leagues. Yeah, I want to see what this guy can do at the NHL level, and that would include playing Thursday night in Washington. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, Capitals come here. Then we have another game on Sunday. It's a 2 o'clock game here. The LA Kings in town, so 2 pretty good tests for the Penguins coming up. All right, we got a lot of people want to talk, and they want to talk about the Steelers at the deadline and beyond. So let's get right to it with our number one Cochrane Go One Better caller of the night. JB is in Shadyside, and now he's on the Sports Call. Go ahead, JB.
How you guys doing tonight?
We're good, thanks.
Good. All right, so I was watching the Bills game last weekend, and I noticed that McDermott, and I've watched the Bills a lot, and I see McDermott burns a lot of timeouts in the second half, so that at the end of the game he has no timeouts, and he loses to the Chiefs every year. And I thought, this guy reminds me of Mike Tomlin, the way he burns timeouts like that. Terrible. All right,
but they won the game in this case, and you know, I mean, timeouts are timeouts. You're going to use them when you have. If you use challenges and lose, you know, there are a number of circumstances that arise. I mean, we see him early in the games. In Mike Tomlin's case, like a lot of coaches, Andrew, you've seen him in the first quarter of games, especially last year when things were out of sorts. So you want to conserve them, but at some point, especially in the first half, you want to use them when you can instead of taking 3 to the locker room. So, I mean, I think you can say that about just every coach out there. But, you know, Buffalo and Kansas City, getting back to this and the trade deadline, they didn't do anything. They were linked to a lot of players. I thought for sure that Kansas City would do something. Not that they're out of it, but as of this moment, they're not in the playoff picture. They will be. I still believe that. But your take on those two teams, who I think they have needs. Certainly Buffalo can use a pass rusher.
I thought Buffalo should have traded for Myers or Shaheed, too. I mean, I think especially Shaheed for them. I think for Josh Allen, we just don't see him take those shots downfield as much anymore. And I don't think it's an offensive line issue because he gets pretty good protection. I think it's more an issue with the guys not being able to get open down there. And Shaheed's great at that. So that's the guy I would have targeted, and I wouldn't have let a 4th and 5th round pick stand in the way of that if I'm the Bills. And then the Chiefs, I mean, same thing. The report is that the Jets wanted a 3rd for Breece Hall, and the Chiefs would only give up a 4th. I mean, you put Breece Hall in that offense,
yes,
now
sir.
All of a sudden you really got to pick your poison situation with how you defend them. And to quibble with the Jets over 3rd versus 4th, and that 3rd round pick is probably going to be at the very end of the 3rd round, I think Kansas City should have made that trade, Bob. So, yeah, I would say disappointing trade deadlines for them as well.
Yeah, Bruce Hall is one of those guys that we saw him last year against the Steelers. He had a huge game, and he is an elite guy in terms of he can break him, he can do a lot of different things, and he would give them certainly another dimension to their offense with all these receivers they have.
Bob, I was surprised by Tomlin's answer today on Valdez-Scantling. I understand he's not on the 53-man roster, and Tomlin wants to make such a big deal about, these are the guys that are on the team right now that we're trying to win with versus the guys that are just here to practice. But, I don't know. Is he really telling the truth there that MVS is just a warm body on the practice squad? The way Rodgers made him sound, Aaron thinks the guy can still really play. So I don't know what to believe in that situation. A lot of Steelers fans seem to think we're going to see Valdez-Scantling sooner rather than later, but Mike Tomlin seemed to throw cold water on that idea today, Bob.
Yeah, even after he criticized Roman Wilson for what he did by trying to leap over someone and fumble the ball in a critical time in terms of trying to secure it. So that was strange, and he also said that Aaron Rodgers had nothing to do with it. And again, hearing Aaron Rodgers talk about him recently, I think that had to be part of it as well. So I do believe by the end of the year you're going to see him in there. But it's almost like a Mike Williams situation from last year at the trade deadline. He comes in, makes an immediate impact in the game against Washington. But how much can you really expect out of a guy like that? So that's why I thought they were going to be in the mood to make a trade for a Jacoby Myers or Shaheed or anyone else in that category. Let's go back to the lines. We got Rich in Murraysville. Hey, Rich, you're on. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. So we make all these moves in the off season to get all these players, and then it's trade deadline. We do nothing. And what I find interesting about this is that can you name me one Steeler draft pick from 2018 to 2024 that made a Pro Bowl? The answer is zero. Now, I would say maybe that 1 year. 2018 to 2024, the answer is zero. So now we have all these picks, and we have a coach, Mike Tomlin, and a coaching staff under him, which is much more concerning, that can't develop talent at all. I'm going to make a prediction for you. The Pittsburgh Steelers will never be good.
I mean, their drafts have not looked good, generally speaking, over that time period. I will agree with that. They needed to get more out of them. But with regard to making a deal today, again, it would just depend on the price. But what I saw from the Myers situation, 4 and 6, I would have topped that if I were the Steelers. Absolutely.
I think the initial point's a fair one. You do all these big moves in the offseason, you're right where you want to be. You're in first place and you're in contention, and you've got an opportunity at a price that to me is not prohibitive to keep this thing going and continue to improve your team. And they stopped short of that. I thought when Tomlin talked today, Bob, he sounded like a guy that thought a trade was coming. I really did.
He likes to go shopping.
I like to go shopping. The thing he said about the trade deadline in general, where the teams that are in contention and competition tend to do things and make moves. I thought he was tipping his hand the way Jerry Jones did yesterday. And it didn't happen. So maybe something they thought was on the table got pulled out from underneath them at the last second. But I thought we heard a coach today that was confident they were going to do something to make their team better.
Yeah, it sounded that way too. As I heard that, as I moved on from it, I thought there was going to be something at the deadline, and there just wasn't today. So again, that's a depth issue at wide receiver. If something happens to one of those guys, it's very difficult to just on the fly put anyone in there. That's why Valdez-Scantling is brought in here on the practice squad. He could be activated at any time, and maybe that's their plan. But that leaves them maybe a little bit short. We'll see how. What is your take on Roman Wilson, though, after what he said? He still, at the end of it, said, he's made a lot of progress. So that makes me think that he hasn't soured on him at all. He wanted to send a message, and he did. But I expect Roman Wilson to still be involved moving forward.
Well, his playing time has gone up, but, that was just an unforgivable thing that he did. And Tomlin called it boneheaded. I don't think everything Aaron Rodgers says positively about Roman Wilson is couched by something critical. It's as if he wants to build him up, but not too much, and keep the guy grounded. I don't get the sense that those guys are exactly on the same page. I don't know if Aaron right now still trusts Roman Wilson to be in the right place at the right time. Even last week when Aaron Rodgers was talking about that penalty that got missed by the officials, the offside penalty. he said that Roman Wilson should have caught that football. So I don't know, Bob. Like, a lot of this is the quarterback and how he feels about his weapons. And I'm not sure yet that Aaron Rodgers is a big fan of Roman Wilson, which is obviously an issue.
We got to take a break. We'll do it right now. Come back with more of your phone calls at 412-575-2600. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We're back. Bob Pompeani, Andrew Fillipponi with you, and I want to get into the defensive backfield because today Mike Tomlin said moving forward, Jalen Ramsey will exclusively stay at safety along with Kyle Duggar for the time being, and he said that they feel they're deeper corner, and that may be, but Darius Slay has had just an average year, I would say. James Pierre is going to be in there. I don't know how deep they are there, and to me, that is a concern moving forward, looking at some of these offenses they're going to play, Andrew. Starting with this one here this week, even though the Chargers are minus 2 tackles and they're going to have to figure out how to combat the Steelers' edge rushers with that, that's still a tough assignment. They got some good, skilled people, and Justin Herbert could do it with his arm and his legs.
They did get somebody at the deadline who's going to help them, Penning, who's a former first-round pick, who's going to go in and play somewhere on their offensive line. He was playing guard for the Saints, but he's played a lot of tackle in his career, so we'll see where they plug him in to help that because they're obviously in tatters on the offensive line. As far as the Steelers secondary goes, yeah, I don't think they're out of the woods yet. I think those guys, Joey Porter Jr. had an interception, Slay had a better game, Eccles played fine, Pierre pitched in. It was obviously an improvement over what we saw the previous weeks, but I'm not ready to declare the Steelers secondary as strength of the team by any means. That's why this Asante Samuel Jr. news that popped up today interested me so much, because that's a guy with a track record, and now he's been given a clean bill of health. But it sounds like he's going to get offers from other teams first, including the Packers, who are hot on his heels, Bob, and obviously they're another team with Super Bowl aspirations.
Yeah, they are, although based on what I saw last week, I don't know what this NFL is. Carolina goes there. How about Carolina? That's a team that not anyone is talking about, and they're very much lurking, even though they're not impressive with how they play.
You said Pitt Panthers or Carolina Panthers,
Carolina.
Bob?
Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
how about the Pitt Panthers got ranked tonight?
Number 20.
How about that?
24, and they have a chance beyond that. They can make this move up, and they could be, and I'm telling you, they could be knocking on the door. Who knows if they're going to in to the college football playoff, but I think that's a good start for them. Week off, we'll see what happens. Notre Dame comes here on the 15th of November. Pony, we're out of time. As always, it goes fast. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. We'll see you this Sunday night on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. Thank you for joining us. We'll do it again. We're here every night. Call us, air your opinions on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Have a good night, everyone.